Hi everyone, Comic Book Reviewer here, this time doing another anime series review, and this one is on Junji Ito Maniac, Japanese Tales of Macabre. Now, as you know, Junji Ito Maniac, Japanese Tale of Macabre is meant to be a anthology horror original net animation ONA series, which of course was produced by Studio Dean, and of course was meant to be based on the various stories of Junji Ito, who of course did the other popular story, Uzumaki. And the best way I would describe Junji Ito is that he's a writer that I think knows how to tap into the horror stories while having morals, cautionary tales, as well as a certain lesson to help us learn, understand, and see what we need to learn from, much like Goosebumps, Grisly Tales for Gruesome Kids, as well as Silent Hill. And each story is meant to be adapted from different stories from Junji Ito certain stories, which of course is meant to have stories from the strange Hazakari siblings all the way to the Whispering Woman, of course from Sanji's beloved pet, and each story being a certain adaptation from his certain stories, like obviously the story of the mysterious tunnel, pointing out the dangers of going into restricted places, also the ice cream bus, pointing out the dangers of obviously accepting ice cream from strangers, and always trusting your gut about these mysterious people who arrive with gifts and goodies, and always trusting yourself not to let your family members, your kids, and so forth go sort of into these places. And of course, the hanging balloons, which of course is meant to point out isolation, quarantine, and the dangers of obviously letting your need to go outside get the better of you. And of course, the full plus full walls, which of course points out Kanji obviously having to deal with his younger brother Sochi making constant noise and having to finally accept that he's just kind of gonna egg him on, as well as his parents not doing anything to stop him. Which of course we also have obviously the other story, The Mold, which points out the dangers of renting as well as letting people into your home unaware of the conditions, the dangers that they could do to your home, as well as the episode Toontown, which of course points out the dangers of covering up someone's murder, not telling the family, as well as not coming clean a lot sooner than later. And other story like Tommy's Photos, which points out the dangers of scalping, raising higher prices, and biting off more than you can chew when other people need to stop and make sure that you don't go too far. And another story, which of course is The Headless Statue, which points out the dangers of motivation, the need for perfect art, and so forth. And the other story, The Library Vision, which of course points out the dangers of being obsessive, viewing your collection with pride, and when it goes missing, pointing out the dangers of obviously letting it get the better of you. And you can tell the writers really did pay attention to each story from Junji Ito's stories, but I do agree some of them ending a lot too soon, ending them when they're good and ready, sums up to where I think Junji Ito was going for. We're not meant to know what happens to the characters, we're not meant to know what happens to them, and it's up to us as the viewer to decide what happens afterwards. And I think the stories do need to set up where they need to be. Everything looks fine and good at first, something that happens that sort of sets up the mystery, and then the characters having to deal with the dangers getting caught into it, and a certain lesson that needs to be told. Much like, obviously, the episode The Whispering Woman points out, obviously, the dangers of not helping your kid by yourself or getting a professional help from an actual person who is actually more trained, as well as not noticing the dangers a lot sooner than later and getting them out of the sort of violent system. And I do admit adapting these stories into a ONA is an interesting idea. It kind of shows a little bit of interest. There is a bit of a cautionary tale with each of Junji Ito's storylines, but I do agree they're there to be something more for fans of his work, people who enjoy the horror stuff, or enjoy something for a good October Fear Fest. So I think the series definitely deserves a thumbs up. It's good, it's enjoyable, and definitely knows where to set high morals, but knows something to give people a bit of a fear or a little bit of an uneasiness that hits close to home. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.